All right, you are looking at a ABS brake pump assembly, brake control for a few different Lexus and also the Toyota 4Runner V8. This one comes off a GS 300 6-cylinder model, but the same one is, or very similar setup. Some small differences here as far as where the brake lines come in versus, say, for the GX470, which is what I'm working on. So I want to go through the system and kind of explain what all the pieces and parts are, and then show you how to fix it, because a very common problem is this motor down here will fail, and then you'll get this loud beeping sound coming from under the dash, and your brake emergency kind of brake light on the dash will start flashing or staying on, and you'll have to push very hard on the pedal in order to stop, and you won't have full braking power because you're losing all the pressure that you would have in this accumulator that pumps out into your brake lines. So we don't have a brake booster per se with this kind of system. This pump down here, the electric pump, this motor, this electric motor, which is powered just plus and minus 2 wires, spins, and there's a pump in this area down here, in here, and that basically takes fluid from up here, and let's see where it enters. So the fluid comes down from the reservoir and goes right into the pump, and then it's going to come out this brake line. It's kind of a source that goes into this module here, where the other front and rear lines can come out. Now certain models will have more than just 2 there, and the idea is that this here is an accumulator which can hold pressure so that when you apply the brakes you have plenty of pressure, and this electric motor only has to come on once in a while to keep the pressure in here. So when you first start your car, you should hear this electric motor pumping, spinning and pumping to charge this up with pressure, and then the sound will go off, and then periodically when you push the brakes and so forth, as the pressure goes down, it'll pump it back up again. So looking around the other side, this is the only thing holding this on inside your car are these 4 studs. So imagine your brake pedal is here, and it's connected by just a pin, and that pin goes through the back of the brake pedal, and sometimes there's a return spring, and there's a little pull clip that goes here. So you're pushing into this with leverage to apply braking force, but you have to push very, very hard if your unit fails. Our electronics are plugged in here in this module here, which controls the valves for the ABS. So if you go under your dash, just pull out that little plastic bottom panel piece, kind of kick panel, where your knees are right above your shins, and then you should see these 4, and it's just a 12 millimeter to with 1 wrench, 12 millimeter, you can get them all out. A ratcheting one is best. So from there, if you're taking out the whole module, you just need to unscrew your fittings for the brake lines. This one does have 4, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can run your ABS, and the input is just this one here. So anyways, undo those brake lines and catch the fluid, and then it's those 4 bolts back there, and this unplug here, 4 connections, and this can pull right out to service. Now on my FJ Cruiser, and this may be true for other models, you can actually just get down in here and replace this motor without taking this whole module out and having to bleed your brakes once again, which can be a pain. And I know a lot of people like to avoid having to bleed brakes, and with this module, People seem to think that there's some very special procedure you have to do because of the electric brake pump in order to get it bled, and you might need a special tool to run the ECU through the OBD. No, it's not true. So I can go over that in a minute. But you have an electrical connection here, and you can pull this guy off to access two Phillips. And the same goes if you're replacing this while it's in your car. You can get in and pull this off down here, and there's two Phillips there. Now to get this motor off, if you're doing it while it's in the car, here, let me move this. It's very tricky to find the location of those bolts. But if you feel for them or use a mirror, they are in there. And it's a pain to turn this with all the other things inside, but it'll work. So take out these two. I use you got a 5mm here. And I've already loosened them up because I had to check this motor at the junkyard because I'll be using it for mine. And you don't have to unbolt this bracket here. This whole assembly kind of can come off as one piece. But if you don't want to bleed your brakes or change anything there, all you got to do is stretch this back and pull it down. Okay, and then the back side will pull off of the rubber isolation mount, and you can pull this guy out and unplug him. Now, yeah, pull that off. We got two Phillips right here. There's kind of a seal down here. Pull this back, and I wipe my hands, and we will go into the motor, and I'll show you why exactly it fails and what fails within it. And to answer the question, can it be rebuilt? Which, yes, it can, but the parts to do it are like $200. It's like $160 on eBay for the new parts inside the motor, plus $40 shipping for some reason. It comes from England. I mean, we should be able to find this stuff coming from China somewhere for cheaper, but I don't know, the corner of the market or something. Maybe they spent time to develop the spare parts, because this module here plus the pump is sold together on Toyota website at discount, $1,203.60, something like that. So $1,200 just to get this thing up and running again, just replacing this portion. A lot more for everything. So it's not this easy. I've done it before, and sometimes you kind of have to work this off, but you can spin it a little bit and then pull, and you're pulling against the magnetic force to separate this. But nothing is nothing inside is held other than by that magnetic force, magnetic. And so I might have to get the camera down in here to see this better, which I will do. Excuse all the mess. But the reason this thing fails is, you can see here, let me see if I can point to this. This surface here is where our brushes, the brushes are in here, they go in with spring force. They're pushing against this this piece here, which connects all the wires, the coils or the windings individually. And there's a little bit of a lip there and a little lip there. You can see, let's see, do it 2 times. Yeah, get that 2 times micro. Because the brushes are, and you can see there, they're wearing through. And what happens when you get a failure is this here will get so worn down that it goes to the steel, and then, you know, that can ruin your brushes by taking a chunk out of them, or just you'll have no electrical connection. So this guy has to turn, and those brushes have to maintain contact with the electricity you know, firing on each coil, boom, 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 you know, through and getting over through the motor to run it. Okay, and mine had kind of a dead spot, so because one of these was actually kind of chipped off, so I would get to like here, it was a dead spot and the thing just wouldn't go. But if I turned it a little bit like that, then it could start up and start spinning and be fine. But more often than not, it would end on the dead spot or right around it. So if I had some easy way from the outside to spin it and give a little spin, but you can. I mean, it's all solidly locked in there, and you don't want it landing on the dead spot and then not charging back up and you lose your brakes. So the new kit parts that you can buy if you want to replace, it comes with 2 brushes and this whole assembly right here with the bearings and everything attached to it. And this can actually pull out of here, but you have to be careful not to break this plastic. There's plastic here. Okay, so this is all held in by some kind of nylon or something, and you have to bend these back to get the spring and the brushes out, and you know, you're gonna have to reattach the new brush here, which would be very hard to do because that's kind of like stamped on. So I'm not really sure how you do that. But I'm gonna clean this up, spray it down, some WD-40, get it all cleaned out, and then put this together and put just this part onto my module. And then I could, you know, sell the rest of this or keep it for spare parts. So going back to it, what were we talking about as far as bleeding? Okay, so if you're gonna bleed this module, easy to do, you just have to get to run this electric motor so that you build up pressure here, and then the pressure here will actually shove the air right out through the system through all your brake lines. So you turn your key to the on position and hold it there and wait for this guy to spin up, and once it stops spinning, you can just turn it back off and go and start bleeding. And the first point would be, so you see the fluid's coming down in here, and it's going to pump through to here, so you want to bleed this off first, so you can unscrew that slightly and see it spray out so you don't have any air bubbles there. It's just fluid spraying out, and you'll have to have I'd use like a big towel or something underneath to keep any of that brake fluid spraying out from hitting anything. Okay, and then so the air bubbles are coming around in here and they'll go up into here. So then you can start one by one from the closest wheel to the furthest. So it's probably one of these for the front, and you know, I don't know if those are the front or the back, don't quote me on it. Sometimes there's, on my unit, there's a little label around here somewhere that tells you what each is, but I don't see it on this one, so I'm not going. Oh yeah, so this is right. Whoop, I got out of focus here. That's an R for, okay, so rear right. And then up here, you can't read it, but there's a L there and there, so that's rear left. Don't hold me to this. You have to look on your own module to figure it out. And then this is right. Whoop, a right here. You can see the R on top. And then a left there. And that's from the driver position, so you'd actually be looking at it this way. So this will be the left front wheel, right front wheel. Right back and left back. So anywho, so you're going to want to start here and go down to the wheel and continue to go back in between each little bleed and turn that on and let this motor spin and charge up the pressure, and then go back and turn the bleeder valve and let the fluid spray out, and then close it off, and then go back until you're satisfied with no air bubbles in your front left line, and then your front right, and then your back left and right, and then you'll be all bled out and ready to go, and you'll feel that nice firm pressure. So I've talked long enough, almost 15 minutes, so I better go, but ask me any questions or send me an email if you have any questions or you need help finding one of these modules. I might be able to help. See ya!